Welcome to Put Lid on It, a virtual event series about business, wealth, mindset, success, finances, and many other topics that can help entrepreneurs. Thank you for joining us in this webisode, where as always, we strive to empower women in business. And now, here's your host, Lydia Desnoyers.
Why, hello everyone. It's your favorite CPA here, Lydia Desnoyers, host of Put Lid on It. I'm so excited to have you here. Today's topic is really, really important for business owners and entrepreneurs. It's Put Lid on It, cover your assets. And so I am joined by two amazing attorneys. I have Marlon Hill and attorney Ribeiro joining us today. Thank you so much for being here. Yay, my two phenomenal people. So what I'll do is I'll have you guys kind of tell us a little bit about yourselves and your expertise and your skills and how amazing you are. And then we'll dive right into the topic. So Marlon, the floor is yours.
Hey, come on, man. Ladies first, boss ladies first, always. Hola, Mari, please.
Such a gentleman. Mari.
He is such a gentleman, I gotta say. Lydia, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I am so excited for this, mainly to make sure that we bring some values to your entrepreneurs and to your clients and to your network. My name is Marlon Hill. I'm your favorite trademark lawyer, and I specifically focus on making sure that nobody could copy or steal your brand.
Love it.
Why not? She's coming to us live from Madrid. You know, Liddy, we want to live that boss lady life, where we can just open up an office in Madrid and just represent international brands.
Yes, that's,
Dubai, South Africa. Anyway, my name is Marlon Hill. I'm coming to you live from the 305, Miami, Florida. I'm so happy to be here with you boss ladies to talk about protecting your assets. I'm a business lawyer. For the last 25 years, I've been helping entrepreneurs, artists, nonprofits, family-owned companies to leave a legacy in their bank account, and most importantly, as well, to leave a legacy in their community. That's what I do. And so today we're going to be talking about how to protect those assets so you can leave a legacy.
And that's why I love you. And you are a man of your word. You do so much for the community. And I'm so grateful you're on here. Everybody already knows you. If you don't, I don't know what rock people are living under. So thank you so much for being here. And yes, so we are talking about protecting your assets. So before we dive into protecting and how to protect those assets, let's just dive a little bit about and discuss what assets are. So for our entrepreneurs out there.
Well, many of us are about to, maybe it's live now, and you're going to buy lunch, you're going to pull out that credit card or the debit card, and you're going to check if you have any dollar bills so that's the most important asset, right? How much money do you have in your bank account or your bank accounts? If you live in Madrid and you also live in Miami, you may have two bank accounts. Right?
Or Barbados, hello.
Or Barbados. And you may have a home in Barbados and a home in Madrid. That's another asset. You have a condo, you have a real property. That's another asset. You may have a 401k that your company or your previous company gave to you. That's an asset. Mm-hmm. You may have life insurance that you invest money in. That's an asset as well. You may be an artist or a creative person and you have a catalog of royalties, and that's an asset, the copyrights to those creative assets. You may have a brand, a trademark, intellectual property. You may have invented something that boss ladies like a pen that puts on mascara for you, right?
Let me write that down. Hold on. Let me write that down to get that patented.
I want 2%. 2%. I want 2%. Right? So that may be an asset. So those are some of the things to think about. And there are other types of assets as well. Anything of value for yourself or for your business.
Right.
Absolutely. I always ask my clients, what's your money maker? Where do you make your money? That is your asset. So it could be tangible, like a lot of the things that Marlon was explaining, but it could also be intangible, like the trademarks, like the copyrights, and even things that you don't even want to disclose, like your trade secrets. What's your secret sauce? What would you die knowing that your competitor or someone who could become your competitor got a hold of. Those are also your assets. So it may not always be something that you hold in your hands, or that it has a dollar sign right next to it, or that you can easily buy and sell. It might also be stuff that you would want nobody to know about, like, because it is what makes you unique and your secret sauce.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mari, the boss lady accountants, they like to put things in columns, right? So, when you come to them before April 15th, right, they say to you, okay, what did you earn? Where did you earn it from? Did you earn it from yourself, or did you earn it from your business, right? So you have personal assets that you need to protect, and then you have business assets that you need to protect. This is very, very important, because when you determine what is your personal asset and what is your business asset, then you can make decisions as to the best vehicles to put those assets, whether in a trust or whether in a company to protect. Because if you have a business in Madrid, I don't know anyone, and you have a business in Barbados, and you have two businesses in Miami, you may not want to put all of them in the same company, depending on the types of businesses. Because if you get injured sipping on a margarita in Barbados, and maybe
Mari, I feel like he's telling our secrets and stuff.
He's letting our trade secrets out for sure.
And then maybe going on a date while you're in the business in Madrid, then you don't want to get all of those claims under the same business. So you want to separate those assets as well.
Right. So let's take a step back, right? We talk about businesses, and some, the thing I hear is, I was told to create an LLC, right? Let's talk about that in terms of just creating an LLC. How much protection does that really give an entrepreneur? And then I want to dive into what are the different risks depending on the different assets you have. But let's start with that, with like the business formation, how to know versus business. Let's talk about the infamous LLCs.
Well, sometimes we are sitting at home and we're sipping on that margarita, or we're waking up in the middle of the night and we have that bright idea. We want to start this company. We want to create that brand. We want to create this new invention, this new service that you're going to provide to the world, right? And you're going to say, okay, I'm going to leave my full-time job. I'm going to leave the mortgage-paying job, and I'm going to start this company. And are you going to do it under your name, Lydia Desnoyers, and just start the company and home office and have your laptop and your printer, or you're going to lease space? So you want to make a decision as to the type of business that you have to protect yourself from any liability. There are two primary reasons why you form a company to protect your assets, right? It's really tax reasons or liability reasons if someone files a claim. And there's not a lot of difference between an LLC or a corporation, a corp, Inc., LTD, whatever you call it, whatever the name is. It's really for tax reasons that you will form the difference between an LLC and a corporation. And some people may even form a partnership. Sometimes, Liddy, you want to put your foot into a business, but you don't want to put all your assets. So you say, you know what? I want to put it in a limited partnership. I just want to see where this is going to go. I don't want any business decisions. And if anything happens, it will just be to the extent of the assets that you put in, your 10,000. But if you want to get a little bit more hands-on and you want to put in 50,000, you want to start making decisions, then you may fall into a partnership. But you want to make sure most boss ladies have a corporation or an LLC, depending on the type of business that they have, to protect themselves from liability and to protect their assets, especially the ones that are personal, as opposed to doing it as a sole proprietor.
Right. Exactly. Because from a CPA perspective, and I see I have Tarsha on here, who's a CPA as well. I often get the question, like, should I create an LLC to save on taxes? And I said, that's one factor to consider. But given the risk associated with your business, you may want to really consider the legal impact, right? And so let's talk to an attorney about the legal implications. So you talk about creating the LLC or a corporation, basically a separate entity to put your business assets and stuff. Mari, from your experience working with trademarks and stuff like that, is that enough to cover your brand? Just creating the LLC?
Okay, so we lawyers went to law school for 3 years and we learned one thing. And that is we answer every question with "it depends." So I'm gonna pull out my law degree and use it right now. Before I answer that question, though, I wanted to kind of hop on what Marlon was saying, which I think is really important, which is just like a lot of entrepreneurs, especially women in business, we tend to think as our business as our baby and as it's like part of us, when in fact we should be separating ourselves from it. And that's where Marlon was talking about the distinction of like creating a separate entity and also having your personal assets and knowing which one to kind of delegate and putting it where. Mainly because, again, if something were to happen in your business, that you were to get sued or something were to happen, they cannot come to me and say, Mari, you know, all the cars, the homes, and the bank accounts that you have in your personal name, I want some of that. I'm going to sue you and I'm going to take some of that. They can only touch the assets that's inside of the business, and it creates that distance between you and the baby, you and the business. So that's kind of like the idea that I find really helpful, especially for women, because we just get so attached to our business.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But Mari, it also depends if you are married, single, or committed, right? Let me tell you why. Ladies, pay attention. You have personal assets that are yours right now, 100%, right? When you become engaged or committed or relationship or no relationship, one team member that you must have on your boss lady advisory group is an estate planner, right? Not just your financial advisor, right? You need to decide what personal assets you're going to put in your will or maybe even in a trust. And, you know, Mari is in Madrid, so maybe she can help you put something in an offshore trust, which is entirely legal. It's major key, DJ Khaled voice, right? Major key. And offshore trust is legal, right? So you may want to talk to Lydia about that. Talk to your estate planner. And the reason why the trust is good for your personal assets, Lydia, is because you avoid the court. You give instructions. You appoint a trustee. Take care of your business. And that's your personal assets. And your personal assets in your trust could be your equity interest in your business assets.
Exactly. Thank you for tying that together, right? Because talking about, like, you know, business risk and stuff like that. Absolutely. Your interest in your business is a personal asset, not to be confused with, you know, that the assets within your business are personal. So, so definitely, you know, estate plans. So that's another way to mitigate risk. And so, you know, Mari, we're talking about the intangible assets, right? And so creating the LLC is probably not sufficient if you're building a brand. And I love how you talk about where we tend to treat businesses as our babies, like, you know, and you know, a lot of entrepreneurs, what we do, and Tarsha as a CPA, I'm sure you can attest to this, right? One of our pet peeves when clients come and they're into, like, you know, mingling personal and business assets, right? And, you know, using our business card to pay for personal expenses and stuff. So we want to be careful with that, right? Talking about piercing the corporate veil. So I'm going to circle back to that, what piercing the corporate veil means. But Mari, when we talk about the intangibles, right? We talk about patents and copyrights. What are those? Like, why would a business need something like that, right? Because I think I was guilty of it, right? Where I was like, no, I bought the domain, so I own it, right? So let's talk about.
So first, let's talk about which each one of those are, because they tend to get really confusing if you're not in this space talking about this all the time. So first we have patents. Patents are for inventions. So novel ways of doing something or a new product that doesn't exist yet, right? That's an invention. That will be protected under a patent, okay? I am not a patent lawyer, so I won't be touching too much on patents. But then the next category that we have is copyright. So copyright is more about protecting the ownership for things that you author. So think about books, think about music, think about movies. Those are the main things that are going to be covered under copyright law. Then you have my specialty, which is trademarks. And that is making sure that nobody can copy or steal your brand. What's your brand? It's the face of your business. It's what identifies your product or your service so that your clients and customers know to buy from you as opposed to buying from your competitor. The product is the product is the product, but people are really buying into your brand. Why? Because the brand communicates something about the experience that they're going to have. If you purchase an Apple laptop, you have in your mind that you're going to have a different experience versus if you buy a $200 PC, right? There's a different expectation, and that's all encompassed around the brand. Yeah. Now, when you have these intellectual properties, the patents for inventions, the copyrights for authorship, and the trademarks for your brand, it has to be owned by somebody. And then who is going to be owning it? That's where we answer, it depends. Right. Most cases, it's going to be by your business. It's going to be your LLC or your corporation that's going to be the owner of those intellectual property. Why is that? Well, because when you own it, it's again going back to where are we placing those assets, but also where are we protecting those assets? So for instance, we live in a very litigious society. Well, not me. I live in Madrid. You guys live in a very much litigious society. You guys are in the US and Miami. So you're international trademark lawyer. Yeah, so we live in a very litigious society where everyone is just looking to sue someone. I'll sue you. I'll take you to court, right? Well, if you own your brand in your personal name, guess who's showing up to court in their personal capacity? You, as the business owner. And now guess what's at risk? Your home, your cars, your bank account, everything that you own in your personal name, and maybe even that you have marital, like with your spouse. Right. Yeah. But if you have it in the business, now you can kind of, I don't want to say manipulate, but you can control a little bit more about what can they touch in
or a holding company or a trust.
Correct. Right. Absolutely. So you can even create layers upon layers upon layers to give yourself some insulation on how difficult or how easy is it for someone to reach money, right? When they try to sue you. Right. So that's where we want to kind of consider when we register our trademark, when we register our patents, when we register our copyright, who's going to be the owner? It more than likely should be the business.
You know, Liddy, I hope that when we matchmake Maddie, she doesn't tell us, well, Marlon and Liddy, it depends. But the point of the trademarks, copyrights and patents is so important because most assets have evidence of ownership, a stock certificate, a trademark registration certificate, a copyright registration certificate, a patent registration certificate, a title to the deed of a property, right? A 401k certification of your account, right? These are all things that are of record that you should put in your will or your trust to protect, or decide within your trust and your team, your accountant, your lawyer, estate planner, financial advisor, where are the best places to put that asset for me or for my family? Because every person is unique. Every family is unique. We're not equally endowed with, you know, what God has given us, right? So you have to assess, right? It's spring next week. It's time to do house cleaning. You know, many of us, if you go to your garage or if you go to Lydia's laundry room, you know those clothes in the basket that stay there unfolded for weeks. Right? Do you know the stuff that you have in your garage that you go, man, I need to organize that stuff? It's time to organize those assets to protect them, because if you wait, life is not given to you every single day. So you have to figure out, should I put it in a trust? Should I put it in a company? How should I organize my equity interest here? You know, when I look at my catalog of my brands, should I have it in my name? Should I put it in a company? These are all decisions that business entrepreneurs, and especially women, and let me tell you why, because many times the numbers of women entrepreneurs are skyrocketing, right? And some of them many women are single, some are in a relationship. So you are making big, very important family decisions.
Yeah.
Why would you want to wait and not have it organized to protect your assets?
Okay.
I kind of want to jump off of that too, because you're making really, really important points. And sometimes we entrepreneurs, we get overwhelmed. We're like, oh my gosh, I have so many things that I need to organize. This spring cleaning is going to be intense this 2022. However, I want to encourage everyone, with us today that, first of all, just get started. You don't have to do all of it all at once, because there's so many things that we have to tend to as business owners, and not just business owners, because that's not the only hat we wear. We're wives, we're spouses, we're mothers, we're daughters, we're friends, we're people engaged in the community. We have different roles, right? So we tend to kind of overwhelm ourselves from time to time. With business, I want to encourage you that it's not necessarily something that you should be like, oh my God, I need to do all of this and I need to do it in a haste, because it's better to do things right than to do things quick. The other thing, so if you just take one step, just start organizing with creating the LLC, just start maybe with your personal assets, then start with the business, and you can start moving things and organizing things as you move through the growth of your entrepreneurship journey. The other thing is that these are not set in stone. When you are in your 1 to 2, maybe even 3 years of business, you're going to have one formation, one organization.
Right.
But as you grow and as you scale, this is a living, breathing organization, and it's going to change as the needs of your business change, and as you grow and as your assets grow. They're going to require you to tend to it. It's almost like a garden. It's like you have to first pull out the weeds and kind of separate, the tomatoes from the cucumbers. And then every now and then, you need to kind of trim off the I'm not a gardener, as you can tell. Trim off the little leaves and all.
You could have fooled me.
Right. But it's something that it's a living and breathing thing that you have to tend to, and it's not set in stone. Even the will that Marlon was mentioning. If you have more children, you change the will. If someone passes away, you change the will. If you get more assets, you change the will. So all of these things are not carved in stone. They will change as the needs of your business, and you as an entrepreneur, your needs also change as well.
Yeah. Another thing, Liddy, your hashtag for your company is put a lid on it. The mason jars. When you organize your fresh juice or your sauces and you put a lid on it, you don't want to leave that open.
Right.
You want to put what's necessary in there. You want to put a lid on it, meaning you're securing it. You are making a conscious decision in planning, right? Because we're busy people, you procrastinate. And I'm telling you, ladies, you must put time aside, just like you do the spa treatment and taking the walk, going out with the kids. You need to put in time to plan ahead to protecting your assets. And once it's done, trust me, Marty and I are in the business of advising clients and making sure that you're protecting your assets and other matters. But we don't want you to be in any sort of stress and distress.
Right.
Even though there are other lawyers that make their living on that.
Right.
But
instilling fear. Yeah.
Why do you want that?
Yeah.
Why do you want to do that when you can plan? You have a checklist of things that you're supposed to be doing, and you're the only one that puts a value on your assets.
Right.
I love that you said that, Marlon, because we are transactional lawyers. Right. We are the preventative medicine. And you said something that I totally disagree with, which is you need to do this. Ladies and gents, you don't need to do anything. You get to do these things. You being an entrepreneur is a privilege. And if you don't, there's no requirement. No one's going to come after you and say, you didn't register your trademark. You didn't create that LLC. No one's going to come after you and say those kinds of things. However, when the universe, God, whatever, catches up to you, then you won't be talking to people like myself and Marlon, which is, how do we do these things the right way?
To prevent.
How do I build a strong tower, brick by brick, with intention? So that is the tallest, strongest tower that I have, right? My business. But when you don't put those things into place, now you're going to be calling litigation attorneys.
Right.
And litigation attorneys love to go to court. They love to go to court, and they love to run up those billable hours. And God bless them, because they do work that I could never do.
Right.
However,
and we need them. They're necessary.
We absolutely need them.
Right.
But if you fail to be responsible for your assets, and, for example, you don't register your trademark, no one is going to say, hey, you didn't register your trademark. But if someone someone beats you to the trademark office, because trademark is given on first come, first serve, and now you have to go and sue them, it's going to cost you a lot more money, time, and stress. All things that we don't need to just be given out like this, but you will be investing that. So you will be investing that to go back and rectify problems, when in fact you have an opportunity to work with people like myself, like you, Lydia, and like you, Marlon, to put things in the right direction. Otherwise, what's the point? What's the point of us actually creating something of value if we're not protecting it, if we're not caring for it, if we're not tending to it?
Right.
So I kind of want to offer that perspective as well, where it's you don't really have to do anything.
Well, but here's another major key. If you register your trademark or your copyright, here's the real value of that. If you have to go to court, you have a better chance of getting your attorney's fees back.
You sure do.
And if you don't register, it may have to come out of your own asset bank account.
That's absolutely correct.
So we have a question here. Can someone try to protect their assets when they are notified that they're being sued? And so this brings me to what Mari just said, right? Where we're all kind of talking about, and that's the whole purpose of Put Lit on It, right? Is that we don't want to wait for you to get sued to start taking action. You mentioned being preventative, right? And being ahead of the game. And it doesn't mean that you won't get sued. It just means now, even if you are sued, you have you have these certain protections. So
you want to be very careful in making any big decisions on moving any assets. If you're being sued or you're going into bankruptcy, you want to speak with a certified, experienced bankruptcy reorganization lawyer to look at your assets and to see because you could be creating another problem, of fraudulent transfer of moving. You're not just protecting now, you are actually
committing
another
fraud.
verb.
No, for example, and you're being sued and then you get professional liability insurance. Well, they're going to ask, are there any current claims, and stuff like that. And so you might be opening yourself up.
So Marcella, don't move those assets, Marcella. Don't move your assets yet.
And it also depends on if you're being notified. So for example, a lot of my clients, I do creating a cease and desist letter, right? Just essentially saying, hey, you're stepping on my trademark toes. Your brand is way too close to mine. Be warned, I have a trademark. If you don't stop using this, then I will bring you to court. That is a different notice than you are being served with paper that litigation has started. So it also depends on, what does it really mean that you're being notified? And also, is someone sending you an email? Are they texting you? There's some requirements there too, where it's like, is there really a problem here?
Lydia, you noticed how Maddie's face changed when she was saying she was serving the cease and desist letter?
She enjoys this. No kidding. So let's talk about, again, because we're all about preventative and stuff like that, and preventive measures and protecting our assets. Another, thing I hear, or I've experienced is we have an agreement, or we have an understanding, we handshake, so let's talk about maybe having contracts in place. And obviously we know that Put Lit on is for informational. So if you need any advice, we recommend that you contact an attorney for your specific cases. But generally speaking, very high level, what would you say to somebody who says, hey, look, I trust this person that I'm doing this deal with. we shook our hands, we have an understanding. What would you say in terms of like having a contract and properly, worded contract and reviewed contract that would cover you in cases of a lawsuit?
I like to say trust but verify.
Right.
So you can
Right.
absolutely trust, and I would love to trust you, because I think in business trust is very important.
Mm-hmm.
But we also need verification, and
Right.
we lawyers love it in writing, and not
Yep.
necessarily in just an email, but
Yeah.
in a formalized contract. Why is that? Because do you really want to go in front of a judge and say, look, judge, look at our email conversation. Look at
Right.
our text. Can
Yeah.
you, let me just scroll right here so
Right.
you can really see that we had an agreement.
Right.
I used to litigate. I don't litigate now. When I was a litigator, I would never want to go in front of a judge being like, let me
Right.
print out these emails for you, as
Right.
opposed to, we have a contract that is our understanding in
Mhm.
writing, which we both negotiated and we both
Right.
feel comfortable with, and we both want to abide by.
Mhm.
The other thing is not just if I need to enforce it or if somebody needs to enforce it, we can bring it to a neutral third party, a judge, right? And say, judge, they're not complying with Section 3. Please make sure that they comply with Section
Mhm.
3. But the contract can also be preventative in what do we do if we have a disagreement?
Mhm.
What do we do when when there's no money in the account?
Right.
What do we do if we need to bring in an investor, but one of the partners doesn't like the investor? It's a way for you to almost have a crystal ball
Mhm.
into, it's not if problems arise, it's when problems arise. How
Mhm.
can we navigate those problems in writing when everybody's heads are clear and the problems aren't here yet, and we're
Right.
all over the moon that we are in business together?
Right.
And how do we move through that without having to stop our business, stop
Mhm.
making money, so that we can figure this out? And now we're stressed, now we're
Right.
upset, now
Right.
we're worried, now we're not making money, and we got this problem that we need to move through.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the contract really serves a few different purposes, but I'll yield to Marlon as well.
Right. Well, for
Yeah.
women, our thing is we like you said, it's like we're emotionally invested, maybe, or we don't want to offend or be confrontational. It's like, oh, this person said like this is what we're gonna do, so we don't need a contract. I might offend somebody, and it's like you said, it's in any event something goes wrong, so that we don't have to stop our business, we don't have to be stressed. We can just refer to this document that we both agreed on when our heads were cleared. And I can tell you from personal experience, I've had contracts where somebody says, well, this is not going the way I wanted to, so I think we need to have a discussion. And I said, well, according to our contract, no discussion needs to be had. and that was it, and that was that. So, had I not had that contract, then we would have to like pause everything and have discussion. And then Lord knows how it would have gone. But having that contract and be able to say, okay, well, let's just refer to what we agreed on. And we don't really have to have a discussion. We can move forward. So,
ladies, please put down the sandwich. It's the Brown Bag, Put Your Lid on It series here. Let's not get it complicated, okay? Right? Ladies, broken relationships. That's the summary of law. How to make a relationship and how to fix a broken one. That's what we do, right? So it's all about expectations, right? Documenting expectations, right? And we lawyers, we put a lot of legalese, little of this, little of that, and we put some gravy and some black pepper to make it smell a little better. Yeah, that's what we do. We tighten the dish, but it's really not that complicated, right? It's rice, water, more water than rice, put it on medium.
Well, for those who don't know how to cook, we should be taking notes right now.
And a contract is like that, What are you going to put in? What am I going to put in? What is going to be the territory or the temperature or the length of time you're going to cook? Are we going to 5 minutes or 10 minutes?
Right.
You don't want to burn the pot, right? You just want to do it right. And then if all goes well, you have a nice side dish, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Keep it simple, right? It's all about expectations. even in the most complicated deals, ladies, that you may get yourself involved with, no matter the type of business that you have. Like with Mari, she has a client with a trademark, right? The client with a trademark is going to go into business with Gucci, who wants to use the trademark, right? Gucci wants to license the use of the trademark, right? In order to protect her asset, which is the brand, she needs to make sure the expectations with Gucci, they're not going to use it in another campaign that's not in the contract.
Right.
Because the value of the asset and the brand is going to be magnified when Gucci uses it in multiple channels. So you determine the value of your asset.
Yeah. I love that you're mentioning the value of your asset, because another aspect that maybe business owners or entrepreneurs don't really think about is, there's the creation of your entity, there's the development of your entity and the operations of your entity. But then how about, you talked about at the very beginning, your legacy, what you leave behind, right? So if you're leaving this asset behind for your children and your heirs and stuff, or if you're selling it to someone else, what is that value, right? And so a lot of clients or a lot of business owners, small businesses, is that they tend to just treat their businesses as like their side, or like the little pocket change, right? So and when I work with my clients, it's an education process of like, this is a valuable asset. So it's like your home, right? And so you want to protect the things that are in your home.
Where do you start in valuing the business, Liddy?
Your
what are you looking at?
Right? You're looking at your assets, right? And so you'll look at the value of your assets and protecting them. And that's why
who gets to determine that trademark is worth more than that one? How do you do that?
Oh, you have to pay for a consultation or call attorneys and stuff like that, right?
Very good.
No, but the idea is we want people or entrepreneurs to understand these risks, right? That it's not the importance of having these considerations and having the discussions and having the right people on your team, right? Because I mean, if it's just a side hustle, side hustle, right? But if we're talking about people who want to build a business, an enterprise, and leave it beyond it, you want this enterprise to last beyond your existence, right? You have to begin to see it as a valuable asset that it is. And like in any valuable asset, you have your vehicle, you get insurance on it. You have your home, you get your homeowner's insurance. When if you're renovating or doing anything, you want to make sure you're working with reputable people who are not going to put you at risk. So your business is the same thing, right? It's this valuable asset. And so, so how are you determining the value, right? How are you protecting those assets to make them valuable? So in the event that you're selling them, right? Yeah. You're not going to, when somebody wants to say, hey, I want to buy your whole entire business for $100. Like, oh, no. Here are the investments I made.
I'll give you an example, Lydia. So I helped my aunt start an art gallery, helping to groom emerging artists from Latin America and the Caribbean. And she's done it for well over 20 years. So she collected a lot of art over the years, right? This is one piece behind actually, right? But the art was in a warehouse. Stacks and stacks of art. She had to go into the warehouse, bring someone in to catalog the assets, the visual art, get someone to come in to do a valuation on appraisal of this art piece from 1970 or this art piece from 2000, who the artist is, what country they are from, whether or not they are associated with Art Basel or an exhibitor, the art appraisal of art like this is just the same way as the appraisal of a trademark, appraisal of a catalog of music, the appraisal of a property in Miami Shores versus a property in Homestead, right? Or a property in Madrid, or a property in Sandy Lane, Barbados. Okay? The same type of appraisal is going to happen. And if you have a business that's a trademark licensing, global international licensing company, there's assets associated with that law firm. If Mari said, you know what, I'm ready to kind of, move in a different direction. There's this guy I met in Barcelona, and I'm gonna go in a different direction. She wants to sell it. She has to go to Lydia and say, okay, we need to find a person that's going to value the business, the computers for the business, the database, the clients in the business, whatever other assets, and then come up with a value. And then you come to someone like me to help you sell the business or to purchase the business. We have an agreement, very simple, the assets, the price, we do an inspection, we have a closing date, right? We do due diligence to make sure that these assets are what they say they are and not some fraudulent brand. Right. And we do that, and we come to a meeting of the minds, and we have a closing, and you wire your money to the lawyer's escrow account, and you purchase a new business.
Yeah.
Now this is why
theoretically, right? And that's why we're having it. So we're glad. I'm so happy to have this conversation. Maddie, I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, that's totally fine. This is why the ownership is so important with having the registration with the trademark, the registration with the copyright, the registration with the patents, because when Marlon does the closing, what are you actually transferring? You're transferring that documentation of the ownership. The other thing that's beautiful about having these assets registered in intellectual property, so having your brand registered as a trademark, having your copyright registered with the Copyright Office, and having your patents registered, is that you get the exclusive rights to do what you like with that brand, that music, that invention, which means that you can keep other people from using, now I'm speaking about brands, but using your brand or a similarly confusing brand, a brand that is way too close to yours that your customers and clients might get confused. When you have that exclusive right to use that, what do you have? Control. You get to control the reputation that your brand has in the marketplace. You get to set the expectation of what your competitors think of you and what your buyers think of you.
Where do I put my emojis? I need some fire emojis.
The hands up, the hands up. This is why I love helping clients legally own their brand, because this is how you get to monetize your brand, because you are now in control. You get to tell Gucci what they can and cannot do when they are licensing your brand and they're paying you the big bucks. And you get to keep other people from pretending to be you and sideswiping all that marketing that you're doing. And the audience is buying from them when they really meant to buy from you. So there's also this this idea of goodwill, which is what you are actually going to be transferring. The paper isn't, I mean, the paper itself is worth what? How much does a piece of paper cost? 80 cents? I don't know. But the goodwill that's attached to it, what that reputation means, is what people are going to be paying the big bucks for when you decide to sell or license meaning giving people permission to use it, and collecting your checks either on a big cash out deal or on royalties and getting paid monthly, quarterly, yearly, forever.
Right.
Lydia, this is one of the reasons why I really love representing creative entrepreneurs, right? The folks that how did you come up with that, right? And how did you design that? Because when you have a copyright registration, that asset you own for your entire life, plus 70 years after you die, right? So Bob Marley, right? Great music. Everyone knows it worldwide. He has a brand, Bob Marley, the trademark, right? He died without a will in 1981, right? He has a few kids.
Just a few, hundreds.
Several kids, right? But they have a trust and a foundation where all the kids benefit from that trust and foundation based on the monetization of the assets in the trust, the entire catalog. So before any music is used, any cover songs they benefit from, any music used in commercials, movies, right? All of those things, all of that revenue assets from the copyright assets from the intellectual property of Bob Marley, died at 36. right, goes into the trust, and it has to be divided and shared with the kids.
Okay.
But he had a trust
right
before he died.
Right.
Even Prince, the family's fighting over the assets.
Right.
Because they didn't make a decision.
They didn't make a decision. Right. Yeah. So we had a webisode on estate planning and stuff like that. So, we'll share that link. It's all on our website. So we're actually running out of time, 45 minutes up, but I wanted two things because we mentioned it before about piercing the corporate veil, right? Because that's from our tax perspective, we call it, mingling business and personal assets, right? So like I said, using the company debit card to pay for personal expenses, or using your personal debit card to pay for business expenses. And that's like a form of piercing a corporate veil. So why is it important to know what piercing a corporate veil is from a legal perspective, and how it puts your business at risk?
Well, Mari, she owns her law firm. It's her company. But the company is a separate entity from her, right? So ultimately, if someone sues her company, they're going to try to pierce, go through to get to Mari's assets. But it's going to be very difficult for them because the assets are held in the company.
Right. And so, but from when that's the intent, right? Why you create the separate legal entity so that somebody cannot come after your personal assets. But sometimes we put ourselves at risk, and I see it all the time from a tax perspective, right, or from an accounting perspective. See it all the time where now if you are commingling your business and personal funds, and you're given the perception that there is no division between you and your business, right? And so when you put yourself at risk like that, someone can sue the business and say, well, you know what? The business is not really different from the personal person. So now I want to go after their personal assets too. And so that's my way of scaring
big problem
to stop
losing
your business assets. No, but
because from a legal standpoint, what you're referring to is a shell company. It's an empty shell. It's just the facade of a business, but I'm not actually operating it as a business. And therefore, if I'm, going to Zara and I'm going to all these stores and I'm buying myself personal clothing and I'm using the company card and, I'm treating the business as if it was my personal spending spree, then I am opening myself up to arguments for another person to say that company isn't really a company. That company is a facade. It's a shell. It's a fake. And you're the one with the real money. So where the company only has maybe $100, but Mari has $100,000. We want to go after her because that's the one with the deep pockets. That's where you as a business owner have to be very organized, as what Marlon was saying, just be very organized and very disciplined, because even if you formalize your LLC or your corporation and you do the formalities, if you're only doing the formalities and you're not treating it as if it is a wholly separate entity, then you can open up yourself to getting the accusation of that's not really a company. You're just hiding behind the company. And we really want to go after you personally.
Right.
Liddy, what are some of the practical things you should do from an accounting standpoint to make those first initial steps for that separation?
Are you taking over my show? Wait, I'm the one who asked the questions here. Well, so it's what's oddly enough, my next question was to you guys, my guests, of what are some things that you would want our audience to walk away with, now that we're kind of bring the show to an end. What are some things, and Marla, I know how you love to keep it simple. So just really simple, what are like maybe the top 3 things that you'd want somebody listening, an entrepreneur, to walk away with in terms of covering their assets and stuff? I know we talked about, the first step is list all your assets, right? So what are, let's say, the top 3 things each of you guys would want our audience to walk away with?
Go ahead, Mari.
So if you guys hear nothing else of what your favorite trademark lawyer says, I would say the first thing in protecting your brand is use the TM symbol. TM means trademark. Caveat, It does not mean that you are trademark or that you actually have trademark rights in your brand. It is just a warning sign saying, hey, world, I'm using this as my brand, and I'm claiming whatever rights I may have in this brand as a trademark. Because brand owners are either going to use the TM or the R with a circle inside as a registered trademark. And every entrepreneur, every brand owner should be using one or the other. So TM if people aren't registered yet. That's number one. Number two, just get started. I want to just make sure that we talk about a lot of things here, and we may throw out legalese terms and legal mumbo jumbo and all kinds of stuff, but just start educating yourself and moving towards it. The audience that's here with us today, you're on the right track. You're educating yourself on what are the things that you can do, but just start taking step by step by step. The other thing is ask for help. No one does this entrepreneurship journey on their own. I don't care what anybody says. Don't believe it. It's not true, but get yourself a team of people that can help you know what you don't know. You're not supposed to know everything. That's the fun part of being an entrepreneur and being on this.
You're good at your product, your service, and you get the right people around you with the areas.
Absolutely. Get yourself a good team, a CPA, a trademark lawyer, a corporate lawyer, a good banker, a good therapist, because you're going to need it too. Just get yourself the support that you need, because entrepreneurship can be an isolating journey, but it doesn't have to be an isolating journey.
Love it. Thank you, Maddie. Marlon.
3 things to walk away with from put lid on
it. TM.
TM. In process, waiting for that cute little R in the circle.
That's right.
I would say that you need to have a plan first and foremost, right? Think very carefully about when you're being an entrepreneur, you're leading yourself. So you got to figure out how to separate what's happening in your personal life from your business life. And that's part of your plan, right? Once you have that business plan, it's a living document. Don't stress over it. It needs to be formal or perfect. Just keep it very simple. Where do you want to be? How are you going to get there? What resources are you going to need? What assets are you going to need to build this business? What types of expenses you're going to have to build this business? That's all part of your plan. The business plan includes finance, operations, and marketing. Those are the 3 main areas in most business plans, right? And then think about when are you going to have a revenue realization event for these assets? Are you going to sell? Are you going to hold? Are you going to license? There are different ways to earn revenue as you mature, as you grow as an entrepreneur, as your family grows, as your brand grows. But at some point, we just can't do what we used to do when we were 25. Right. You can't do what you want to do at 45. So look at your assets in leaving that legacy. When are you going to make that realization revenue event to then do other things you want to do, whether in the community or your family. So have a plan, live and breathe the plan to execute it, and then have an idea of what you want to do to realize the benefit of those assets in the future.
Love it. Thank you both so much for being here and Put Lid on It. As always, we're here to empower entrepreneurs, specifically women-owned businesses. And so thank you so much for such insightful information. I have so many key nuggets I know are going to be highlighted, and we're going to be sharing this across the thing. So, and I also want to remind everybody, we have CPAs, attorneys, all sorts of professionals on here. But you want to make sure that you retain somebody or work with somebody for any specific advice and things that relate to you. This is for educational purposes. And so I thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy schedule from all over the world to join us. Thank you so much for joining Put Lid on It, everyone. You have a wonderful day, and we're out.